Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 92nd Street Y. Good morning. Let's all say good morning together. Good morning. So welcome to the 92nd Street Y. I'm delighted that you're here. We are here for a really special event to celebrate the 10th anniversary of a wonderful series of books called Bad Kitty. Have you guys heard of Bad Kitty? Yes. Yes. Bad Kitty tells us lots of very interesting facts and information, but above all, it's a wonderful story. So I'm delighted because today we love stories and we have a magnificent storyteller that's here to share Bad Kitty with you, and his name is Nick Bruel, and he's going to not only tell you about how he wrote Bad Kitty, but he's also going to show you how he illustrated Bad Kitty. And then we also have a very special guest for you to see today. So let's give a very, very warm welcome to Nick Bruel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, okay, I understand that there are 900 kids in this room right now. So before I begin, I want to make sure everybody is here. So I'm going to do a quick head count, all right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 900, 340, 600. You made me miss my place. Okay, I'm start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 897, 898, 899. Oh, there you are. 900. Perfect. We can go. As you've gathered by now, my name is Nick Bruel. I happen to have this amazing job where I get to write and illustrate books for kids like you. My favorite part of this job, my absolute favorite part of this job where I get to write and illustrate books for kids like you, is that every now and then I get to have an intimate little get-together like this one where I actually get to meet kids like you and talk about what I do. So now I think we have enough time for me to read to you one book, after which we're going to do a little exercise together on how to come up with our own story ideas. After that, I'm going to do a little drawing. After that, there'll be time for questions. How does all that sound to you? All right, then that's what we'll do. Now, I do find that if I'm going to read any book at all, it pretty much always has to be this one here. So I want to get a sense. Do you know this book? What is the title of this book? Who is this on the cover? What is her name again? She wasn't always a bad kitty. She used to be a good kitty until one day, oh dear, we're all out of food for the kitty. All we have are some healthy and delicious A, asparagus, B, beets, C, cauliflower, D, dill. Ack, says the kitty. Eggplants, fennel, garlic, horseradish. Eek, says the kitty. Iceberg lettuce, jalapenos, kidney beans, leeks. Eek, says the kitty. Mushrooms, navy beans, onions, parsnips. Oh no, says the kitty. Squashes, radishes, spinach, tomatoes. Ugh, says the kitty. Rhubarb, vegetable stew, watercress, shigua, which is a Chinese watermelon. Yuck, says the kitty. Yams and zucchini. Kitty was not happy. Not happy at all. That's when she decided she would be a but not just any bad kitty, but a very, very bad, bad, bad kitty. She, A, ate my homework. B, bit grandma. C, clawed the curtains. D, damaged the dishes. Endangered the goldfish. Flooded the bathroom. Grappled with guests. Hurled hairballs at our heads. Irritated the baby, jumped on the bed, knocked over the lamp, loitered, which is a fancy word that means hanging around where you don't belong, was mean to my mommy, was nasty to daddy's neckties, overturned her cat box, plotted against us, quarreled with our neighbor, and the letter up here reads, "Dear neighbor," meow, hiss, 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 meow, hiss, meow, sincerely, the kitty. Ruined the rug, sold my toys, tormented a little mouse, untied my shoes, was violent with the vet, wrote on the walls, examined my diary, yowled all night, and zeroed the zinnias. And a zinnia is a type of flower. What a bad kitty. What a very, very bad, bad, bad kitty. But then, I'm back from the grocery store, and look at all the good food I bought for Kitty. We have... I'm going to pause here a moment. I'm going to get back to the book in about a minute. I promise. But I was kind of getting the impression that maybe you know this book pretty well. And even if you don't, that's okay. Because for those of you who know this book pretty well, you know that coming up next is going to be an alphabetical array of some very weird-sounding foods that Kitty happens to like, right? Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, I was curious one day about something. I was curious to know if any of these weird-sounding foods that Kitty happens to like, if any of them also happen to be real. So, I did what you're always supposed to do when you're curious about something. I decided to do a little research, which, as you may know, meant that I went to my local bookstore. I went to my local library. I even went onto the internet to try and find out if any of these weird-sounding foods that Kitty happens to like, if any of them also happen to be real. This is what I discovered. I found out that several of these weird-sounding foods that Kitty happens to like, several of them also happen to be real. I'm going to point them out to you, but I want you to feel free to guess, okay? So we begin with A, an assortment of anchovies. Is that real? Yeah, right. You get a can in the grocery store, and some people like to put it on pizza. Some people like it, some people don't. I find it a little salty and gross, but, moving on. B, buffalo burritos? Yes, it's real. C, chicken cheesecake? Yes, it's real. D, a donkey named Dave? No. Just because you name a donkey Dave does not mean you have to eat him. Elephant eggs? No. Fried flies? No. Goose goulash? Yes, that's real. Hippo hamburgers? No. Insect ice cream? No. Jellyfish jelly? No. Wait, what? Who said yes? Only on SpongeBob, that doesn't count. Kangaroo kidney pie? Yes, they eat that in Australia. Lizard lasagna? No. Mousse à la mode? No. Similarly, just because you put ice cream on a milk mousse does not mean you have to eat them. Nightingale nuggets? No. An order of opossum? Yes. Yeah, that's right. People eat that. Penguin pizza? No. Quail quiche? Yes. Rhino ravioli? No. Shark sushi? Yes. Very popular in Japan. Turtle turnovers? No. Uncle Murray? Definitely not. A variety of vultures? No. Whale waffles? No. An excess of Tyrannosaurus Rex? No. Yak yogurt? Yes. I had fans of my books traveling through a country called Mongolia. In case you don't know, it's a country just north of China. They sent me an email about what they saw when they went into a grocery store there, because what they saw in a grocery store in Mongolia was a shelf completely filled with containers, all labeled in English, yak yogurt. Now, just for the record, do you think this was yogurt made out of yak? No, it's yogurt made from yak milk. And Big Zebra Ziti? No. But now Kitty was happy, very, very happy. She decided that from now on she would be a... But not just any good kitty, but a very, very good kitty. She, A, apologized to Grandma. B, bought me new toys. C, cleaned her cat box. D, drove me to school. Erased the wall, finished my homework, gave to UNICEF, hugged the little mouse, invited affection, joined the jamboree, kissed the goldfish, left the lamp alone, mopped the bathroom, was nice to my mommy, sang opera all night, was polite to the vet, quit quarreling with our neighbor, and now that letter up there reads, Dear neighbor, purr, sincerely the kitty. Repaired the curtains. You may notice she's using little patches of what used to be Daddy's neckties. Saved the day, tied my shoes, didn't eat Uncle Murray. Vacuumed the floor, washed the car, filed our taxes, gave me a yellow yo-yo, and lulled the baby to sleep. Zzz. What a good kitty. What a very, very good kitty. How can we reward such a good kitty? I know. Look, kitty, we've brought you a new friend. You can play together, and you can go to the park together, and you can share your food with him. Uh-oh, the end. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Your spontaneous applause allowed me to take a sip, and I appreciate that. Now is the fun part. And I believe we have some kids who are already been selected who are going to join me up here on the stage. Is that correct? If you guys can make your way up here, that would be tremendous. Because whenever I get the opportunity to talk to a bunch of kids like you, somebody always has this one very important question that they'd like to ask me. That question is, Nick Brule, where... You can turn around. You're going to sit down so I can see you guys, all right? Yeah, turn around so you're going to talk to me, all right? Turn around. No, look to me. They're here. Turn around. Yeah. Don't look at them. They're not going to help. They're going to just make you nervous. Somebody always asks me, Nick Brule, where do you get the ideas for your stories? This is what I always say, because this is the absolute truth. For me, the way my brain works, I think of the titles first. So before I even think of the story, the character, or anything else, I think of the title first, and I'll tell you why that is. Sometimes writing a story can be very, very hard, but a title can be very, very easy, right? I mean, a title can be just one or two words. I'll give you an example. It was about 12 years ago now that I was sitting at home, and I had this big blank sheet of paper in front of me, and I had this pen in my hand. It was time for me to think of a story, but instead of thinking of a story, I thought I'd just write down some titles. Titles I'd never seen before, titles I didn't think even existed. So that's what I did. I just started writing them down on this paper, title after title after title. And I didn't worry about whether they were good or lousy titles, because you know what? There were some titles that I kind of liked, and there were some titles that I didn't like. But then I wrote down one title that I really liked, and that title was? I loved that title. So that's when I started asking myself questions. And the first question I had to ask myself was, okay, if I've got a title to a story like Bad Kitty, what's my story going to be about? That was easy enough, so I moved on. I then asked myself the next important question, which was, okay, if I've got a story about a cat doing something very bad, what does she do that is so bad? That was when I came up with so many ideas, I thought it would be interesting if I put them into alphabetical order. That is how this story, this one I just read you, the first Bad Kitty story took shape. That essentially is how this entire Bad Kitty empire was born. So having said that, this is what we are going to do. Now, I brought these kids up here on the stage because usually I do this with smaller groups, but this is such a big crowd of people that if I was going to be running around to everybody, I'd get winded and collapse, and nobody wants to see that. So I have these kids up here, and this is what we're going to do. Guys, we are going to make up a story title together. And then we are going to make a story together, a story that never existed until we thought of it. Here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to split your group in half for just a moment. This half here, I want you guys to think to yourself. Think to yourself, which means no talking out loud. Think to yourself of an animal. I'll be right back. This half, you have a different challenge. I want you guys to think to yourself. Think to yourself of a feeling or an emotion. And I'll be back in a moment. All right, raise your hand if you have an animal that you are thinking of. What animal are you thinking of? Cheetah. Very nice. Raise your hand if you have a feeling or an emotion that you're thinking of. What feeling or emotion? What's that? Mad? We have a title to a story called Mad Cheetah. First question we can ask ourselves is, where is the cheetah in our stories? Raise your hand if you have an idea of where the cheetah is in our story. Where is the cheetah in our story? The cheetah is in the forest. What is the cheetah doing in the forest? What is the cheetah doing in the forest? The cheetah is looking for food. What kind of food does the cheetah want to eat? Raise your hand if you haven't answered that one. What kind of food does the cheetah want to eat? You know what? Maybe what we'll do is, we're going this way automatically anyway, so I'm going to ask you, what kind of food does a cheetah want to eat? Meat. How long has the cheetah been looking for food? For 2 years, this cheetah has been looking for some meat. Why is it taking so long for the cheetah to find something to eat? Why? He just doesn't know where it is. He doesn't know where to look. Where has he been looking to find something? Where has he been looking? He's been looking in the forest, but how come where should he be looking? Where should he be looking? He should be looking in the woods, in another forest. How is the cheetah going to get to the other forest? By running. How long does the cheetah have to run to get to this other forest? 3 years it's going to take him to run from one forest. Well, how come it's going to take him so long to run to this other forest? How come it's going to take him so long to get there? He has to cross the ocean. How is this cheetah going to cross the ocean? Say that again. By running very, very fast. Okay, does this work? Is this going to work? By running very fast, is he going to be able to cross the ocean? No. How come it doesn't work that running very, very fast across the ocean, how come that won't work? You want me to move on? How come it's not going to work? Running fast across the ocean, how come that's not going to work? First thing on your mind. Why? Because he's going to get so tired. What else can he do to cross that ocean? What else could the cheetah do to cross that ocean? Riding what? Riding a bull. Great. Does that work? Does that work, riding a bull? No. Okay, how come that's not going to work? How come that doesn't work? Because his hands will get tired riding a bull. So what can he finally do to cross that ocean to get to the other forest? What could he finally try to do? What is it? Oh, rent a boat. so he can rent a boat. Where is he going to find a boat? First thing comes to mind. Okay, where? Where is it? By the lake. He goes to the lake to find a boat. How much does it cost him to rent the boat? It costs $1 million. How is this cheetah going to get $1 million to rent the boat? Do you have an idea? What? How? He has to win a contest. What contest is he going to win to win that money? What contest is he going to win? A running contest. How many other people are in the running contest? How many other animals? How many? There are 12 people. How quickly does he run? How quickly does he run to win it? How fast is he? How long does it take him to win the contest? How long does it take him? Two days, he wins the contest. How does he feel when he wins the contest? How does he feel? What does he do with that boat? What does he do with that boat? What does he do? He rides it. How does he feel when he gets to the other forest? How does he feel? And what does he do when he finds the meat he wants? What does he do? He eats it. How much does he eat? How much does he eat? He eats 200 big pieces of meat. And what does he do after he's eaten so much? What does he do? He goes back home. Put your hands down. I have another story I need to tell you. We don't have a whole lot of time, but it's a good one. The title of the story I'm going to tell you now is Mad Cheetah. And once upon a time, there was a cheetah who was in the forest. And he was looking for something to eat. He'd been looking for 2 years to try to find some meat. That's why he wanted to eat, but he couldn't find any meat after 2 years, and he felt very, very mad because of it. So he realized that he was looking in the wrong place. He was looking in the wrong forest. He had to go to the woods. He had to go to a whole other forest. The only problem was it was going to take him 3 years to get to that woods, to that forest, because to get there, he'd have to cross the ocean. So he needed a way to do this. So first thing he thought he'd do is maybe he would run very, very fast. Did that work? No. Because he knew he got very, very tired. He couldn't do it anymore. So then he thought, you know what? Maybe I'll ride a bull. Let the bull do all the... Did that work? Because his hands got really, really tired. It didn't work. So then he thought, you know what? I need a boat. And he went to the lake to get a boat. The only problem was it cost $1 million to rent that boat to get to the other forest on the other side of the ocean. Did he have $1 million? So he found a contest that he could enter to win the $1 million. 12 other people were in this contest. But after 2 days, he ran so fast, he won the contest, no problem. He's a cheetah, right? So now he won the contest, and he felt very happy. He got that boat, and he felt very happy. He got in the boat, he crossed the ocean, and he felt very happy. He got to eat 200 pieces of meat, and our cheetah was not a mad cheetah anymore. He was a happy cheetah indeed. So he took a nice long nap. The end. Excellent. You guys can get up and you can go back to your seats. Thank you very much. Excellent job. Let me get some high fives here. Nicely done. Good job. Let's hear it for them. They did a great job here. But let's do a quick review of what you just saw happen here. Because what you just saw happen was pretty neat. What you just saw happen was I took two little words. I took the word cheetah from over here. I took the word mad from over here. And we made this amazing story, a story that never existed before about a cheetah that had to get something to eat, had to go across the ocean, needed to find a way like a boat. And that was beautiful. Here is the lesson of the day. Here is the thing I want you to remember. Here's the thing I want you to take away with you long after you have left this building. These kids up here made up every single amazing detail of that story all by themselves. I only had to do one thing. But the one thing I did was pretty important. The one thing I did was I asked them questions. I asked them questions starting with, where is the cheetah? And what is he doing? And how long does it take him to find the meat? And how is he going to get across the ocean? And stuff like that. This is the secret to writing stories. The secret to writing stories is very simple. The secret to writing stories is always ask yourself questions. This is so important, I'm going to have you repeat it after me. Always ask yourself questions. Say it with me. Always ask yourself questions. Say it by yourselves. Always. Just the teachers. Now the kids. That is the secret to writing stories. That is the secret to what I do. Because when I am sitting down in my office and I have that big blank sheet of paper in front of me and I have that pen in my hand and it is time for me to write a story, the more questions I ask myself while I am writing that story, the more interesting my story becomes. It really is as simple as that. But I'm lucky. I don't just write my stories. I also get to illustrate them. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what it's like for me to illustrate Bad Kitty. But here's the thing. I promised myself this morning that I wasn't going to be the guy who came up onto the stage and got a big, beautiful piece of paper and I got a big old marker and I said to you kids, okay, children, this is how you draw a bad kitty. Because you're not going to learn anything. The most you would learn from watching me just draw bad kitties, how I draw cats, and not even how you would draw your own cats. So this is what I'm going to do. I am, of course, going to draw bad kitty. But I'm going to show you the hardest part. I'm going to show you the biggest challenge I face every day when I have to draw a bad kitty. And that is giving her emotions. You remember how I had half this group of kids think of a feeling or an emotion? Yeah. The reason I did that is because emotions, feelings, are really important in stories. Every character in every story you've ever read or ever going to read, they all need emotions to seem real. But here's my problem. I created a character who doesn't talk. Kitty doesn't talk. And because she doesn't talk, that means she cannot tell you what she's thinking. She cannot tell you what she's feeling. The only way to know what Kitty is thinking or feeling is by seeing the expressions on her face. That's the hardest part of my job when I have to draw a bad kitty. I'm going to show you how I face this problem every day. Now, in order to do this, I do have to draw a kitty herself. Now, I believe this is going to be shown on the screen as well, so we'll get that on, but we'll get started here. I have this big, beautiful piece of paper, and I always start in the middle of her face with that part of the body we call the elbow. Wait, who said no? You're right, nose, sorry. Then underneath her nose, I draw her. Very good. I draw 2 circles above her nose, which are her elbow. No, you're right, eyes, sorry. These 4 hairy deals up top. My research shows that all cats have 2 ears. So I always give her 2 ears. Here's a fun fact for the day. These whiskery deals on the side, skinny neck, shoulders, that tuft of hair. And there's Kitty. Hi, Kitty. But I'm not, oh, all right, you can give it up. But I'm not done yet. Because you can look at that kitty. You can't, and she doesn't really have an expression. I call this blank-faced kitty because you can't look at that kitty face and know what she's thinking. You cannot look at that kitty face and know what she's feeling. that is about to change. Because with a single stroke of this marker, I'm going to turn this expressionless kitty, I'm going to turn this blank-faced kitty into annoyed kitty. Here it comes. Pay attention now. All right, so blank-faced kitty, annoyed kitty. In case you missed it the first time, no expression, annoyed. No expression, annoyed. The smallest detail can have the biggest difference. I'm going to do this 3 more times so you know what I am talking about. Whoa! Live television, folks. Mishaps like this used to happen to Jackie Gleason like you wouldn't believe. All right, so to save time, I'm not going to draw the whole kitty head with the ears and the whiskers and all that sort of stuff. I'm just going to draw the important components of her face. I might make her eyes a little bit bigger. I'll do this 3 times. How's the back of my head looking this morning? That was kind of a rhetorical question, but I appreciate the kind words. Anyway, here we go. I've got 3 kitty faces there. They're pretty much the same. They're pretty much identical, but obviously something is missing. By the time I am finished, this one on top is going to be surprised kitty. The one in the middle is going to be crazy kitty. And the one at the bottom is going to be adorable kitty. So first, surprised kitty. 1, 2. Easy, right? Okay. But now all of a sudden, look, that face comes alive. That's great, right? Okay, next, crazy kitty. 1, 2. Not so hard. And lastly, adorable kitty. 1, 2. I had 3 kitty faces. They were all pretty much the same up until the only difference between surprised, crazy, and adorable were where I put the dots for her eyes and how big I made them. Knowing the details of those, finding the right detail makes all the big difference. It took a lot of practice. And still, after all these years, it is the hardest part of my job. I want to make sure I did it right. So I'm going to ask, I have a special guest in the wings who's going to come out and tell me if I did a good job or not. Would you come on out here, special guest, to tell me if I did a good enough job with drawing? Yeah? Oh, okay. All right. Kitty, show me surprised. Can you show me? Okay. Does that work? Okay. Show me crazy. Okay, that worked. Now show me adorable. I think I nailed it each time. I believe that there are some questions that have been asked of me already. So for the remainder here, we're going to ask some questions. And Kitty, maybe you can help me if get the questions right. Oh, you know what? We need to go back to the other so I can see what the questions, the other camera there, the other screen. There we are. Questions for Nick. That's me. What inspired you to create the character Bad Kitty? That's a pretty good question. Now, I kind of went into that, didn't I? I kind of told you that I came up with the idea by thinking of the title first. But the one thing I didn't do was I didn't tell you why I liked that title, Bad Kitty, so much. I liked the title Bad Kitty for 2 reasons. The first reason was the word bad. The second reason was the word kitty. I like writing about bad characters. See, whenever you're writing a story of any sort, you're playing this very elaborate game of make-believe where you get to pretend that you are each and every character in the story. But when you write about a bad character, like that. You get to pretend that you are as rotten, you are as lousy, and you're as awful as that character is, only you don't get in any kind of trouble, and that is kind of cool. As for the kitty part, you know what? I could have made that title Bad Octopus. I could have made that title Bad Antelope. I could have made that title Bad Macaroni Penguin, and I'm beginning to think maybe I should have. But I like that kitty part. If you've ever had a cat, you'll know what I'm talking about. When it comes to cats, it doesn't matter how sweet they may be. It doesn't matter how loving or affectionate they may be. It doesn't matter how much they may like to rub up against your leg or sleep peacefully in your lap. They all have a dark side. It's that dark side that I tapped into to create this personality of Bad Kitty that's allowed me to do so many books about her. Let's find out what the next question is. How old were you when you decided that you wanted to be a writer? The best way for me to answer that question would be to answer it the age I was when I first started writing stories. When I was in first grade, there was nothing I loved to do more than to sit and write and illustrate a story. So that's what I did. I would get as many pieces of paper as I could. I'd put them down in front of me. I would get a pencil or a pen or a crayon, whatever I got my little hands on, I would just start writing and drawing stories. And I was writing and drawing stories in second grade. And I was writing and drawing stories in third grade. I remember being in fourth grade. When I was in fourth grade, I wrote a whole series of stories called The Adventures of the Invisible Family. The great thing about writing and illustrating a series of stories called The Adventures of the Invisible Family is that, as it turns out, an invisible family is very easy to draw. I kept on writing and drawing stories in fifth grade, in sixth grade, middle school, high school, college. I've been writing and drawing stories all my life. I am writing and drawing stories now because I love doing it so much. It just so happens I love it as much now as I did when I was even younger than most of you guys here. Let's see what the next question is. How can we join your book club? There is a very cool, very nifty, very wonderful website called badkittybooks.com. I'm going to say it one more time, badkittybooks.com. If you, with the permission of an adult, or if you request an adult to go onto that website, badkittybooks.com, you will be able to join the book club, and you will get emails from me, and you'll get all sorts of news and information, and there's some educational stuff on there, but there's also some games that you can play on there as well. So that's how you can do it. How many books have you written? You would think that would be an easy question for me to answer. You would think that I should be able to just say, 14, 15, however many books it is. Here's the problem. And this is going to sound like I'm not answering the question, but I am. Because this is what you may not know about what I do. It takes me about 9 months sometimes to write and illustrate a book. That's a long time. I mean, think about it the entire time you're in school this year, the entire time you're in first or second or third or fourth grade this year, from the beginning of September to the beginning of June, that is 9 months. And that's the amount of time it takes me to write and illustrate a book. Then it takes a whole year, 12 months, sometimes longer for that book to even come out onto the shelves of your bookstore or the shelves of your library. So when I'm writing a book and I finish it, I don't just sit and wait for that book to come out. I get started on the next book. But then I finish that book. After 6 to 9 months, I finish writing that book, so do I wait for that one to come out? No, because the first one hasn't come out, so I get started on the next book. I'm in the middle of writing and illustrating the next next book. When the first book came out, I finished that one. I get started on the next book. The first one just came out, and I lose track. That's why. I think I have about 15 books out there right now, but more are coming. In May, a book I've already finished writing and illustrating is a very different kind of Bad Kitty book. It's not a picture book. It's not a chapter book. It's not an activity book. It is a book. It's going to be called Bad Kitty Makes Comics. It's about how kids like you can make your own comic books. Because when I was your age, I didn't just love reading comic books, I loved making them. I'd get together with my friends, and some of us would write the stories, some of us would do the illustrations, some of us would do the colors, and we'd make our own comic books. And this is going to be a textbook for you guys to make your own comic books with Bad Kitty and Strange Kitty as your guides. And in next January, the newest Bad Kitty book is going to be, the newest chapter book is going to be Bad Kitty Goes to the Vet. Can you come to our school to visit and talk more about your books? Isn't that lovely? I love visiting schools. I always have so much fun. But there are a lot of schools out there. There are a lot of schools in here. I can't get to all of them. Here's the neat part about what's happening right now. You remember how I mentioned badkittybooks.com? If you go to badkittybooks.com in the future, there will be a link for you to go and watch this very presentation over again anytime you want. And that means you can do it tomorrow, you can do it next week, you can do it next month. There will be a link that will bring you can watch this thing forever and afterwards. We're all out of time, but I have 3 more things to say. What's that?
You would pick the winner of the raffle.
Okay.
Over 79 schools from across the country
Oh.
have signed up to possibly
Okay.
win Bad Kitty.
I'll do that in a moment. Okay, that's great. There's a raffle here. I didn't even know about a raffle. I love raffles. How come nobody told me the raffle? I can put my name in. All right, doesn't matter. We'll get to it in a minute. 79 schools out there have put their names into this raffle. And I'm going to draw from that school in just a moment. But I wanted to do a few more things. And the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to ask you guys a question. Because I kind of mentioned how I liked drawing and writing stories when I was in first grade. So in some of you sounded kind of surprised by that. So I want to get a sense. I want you to raise your hand, and you can do this out there in internet land. I want you to raise your hand if you have ever written or illustrated a book or a story of your own. Raise your hand if you've ever written a book or a story of your own. Excellent. Put them down again. Raise your hand again if it was hard work writing that book or that story of your own. Yeah. Okay, excellent. Put them down again. Raise your hand one more time if it was fun writing that book or that story of your own. Excellent. Put them down again. As you just demonstrated, something can be hard work and fun at the same time. That is what it's like for me. It is always hard work. It is always challenging. Sometimes it is, frankly, even frustrating. But it is always very, very fun at the same time. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't so much fun. This would be a good opportunity for me to draw from the bag here and find out who has won the raffle. I don't even know what's going to be in the raffle, but it's a folded piece of paper. The winner goes to Denise Nauman of Eisenhower Elementary School, 100 Warwick Drive in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, ladies and gentlemen. We'll put that right here so I don't lose track. But I've got something for everybody, and that includes everybody in the internet world here. Teachers, I hope you're very proud of your kids because they did a tremendous job here today. I really mean that sincerely. So what I have for each and every single teacher here in this room is a CD-ROM that's already been placed in your bag. And on that CD-ROM is all of the various exercises I do with for all the various age groups throughout the day when I visit a school. And in that CD-ROM is included a Bad Kitty folder. And if you open that folder, you will find 3 things. First, you will find a follow-up to the story idea exercise that we did here today that you can do in the classroom if you choose to. The second thing you'll find is a recipe for chicken cheesecake. And the third thing you find is photographic evidence of yak yogurt. And for all of you who are watching this stream live right now, that folder is going to be on the Bad Kitty Books website soon for you to download any time you want. I have one last thing to say, and that is thank you. Thank you all very much, because 10 years ago, when the first Bad Kitty book, that book that I just read to you earlier today, came out, I had no idea that during that 10 years, there would be 10 more books, totally 11 so far, coming out about this character. I had no idea that there would be, after 10 years, over 12 million copies of Bad Kitty books out there in this country and Canada alone. I had no idea that Bad Kitty would be read in countries like Italy and Israel and France and Canada and China, just to name a few. All of this happened because of you guys. And not just because you read the books, because you read the book and then you said those really important words. You leaned over to a friend of yours at some point and you said, hey, this is pretty good. You should read it. You should read it too. Those words are really, really important to reading, and they're really, really important to me. So thank you all very much. The end.
Thank you so much. Can we say a wonderful thank you to Nick and to Bad Kitty? Let's all just say thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you to all the schools and the teachers for coming today to the 92nd Street Y. We're delighted that you were able to come, and we hope to see you again very soon. Bye-bye.